Welcome, fitness friends. In this video, I want to go over an 18-6 intermittent fasting meal plan that you can follow to get to low body fat levels and actually improve your health. I find that when most people start an intermittent fasting program, they generally don't change their diet. They feel that just fasting is enough to lose weight. And initially that might be true. Because when you start intermittent fasting, let's say you're fasting 18 hours, taking in all your calories within a 6-hour eating window, and that's the definition of an 18-6 fast, most people will automatically eat less and reduce calories, even though they're eating their favorite foods. But over time, I find that that strategy stops working. And it gets to a point where you really have to clean up and start improving your diet. So let's go over exactly how I would structure a meal plan for someone following an 18-6 fasting strategy. Now, if you can understand the two main benefits of intermittent fasting, and then take those two benefits and structure your meals using those same concepts, you're gonna do incredibly well. You see, when you're intermittent fasting, one thing you're doing is that you're keeping insulin levels low. See, whenever you eat, you spike insulin to store away the calories, the excess calories. If you're constantly eating, constantly spiking insulin, you're never going to be burning fat. You're always going to be storing away calories. So if you can pick foods and eat in a way that doesn't excessively spike insulin, you're going to do incredibly well. Plus, when you're intermittent fasting, you're generally restricting calories. Now, if you can also eat in a way where you're picking like nutrient-dense foods that are low in calories, like a whole food natural diet, you're going to be doing incredibly well. So you have to eat in a way where you're getting a lot of nutrition while not taking in too many calories. And then you also have to pick foods that don't spike insulin. So now let's go over a couple of ideal lunches that you should be eating. And I'll talk about how to structure these meals properly. So let's say, for example, you fasted for 18 hours. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon and you're ready to break your fast. To me, these are two incredible ideal meals that you can eat. So right here we have smoked salmon. I love smoked salmon. Why do you want to eat smoked salmon? First of all, incredible source of protein, right? You definitely want to get enough protein in your diet. My recommendation for protein is 0.9 grams per pound of lean body weight. So make sure you get enough protein. This salmon is high in omega-3s, those healthy fats, incredibly good for you. Omega-3 studies have shown can help reduce cholesterol, can do so many, get rid of inflammation, do so many amazing things for the body. I also like to make sure I'm getting enough protein, so I also added 2 pasture-raised eggs, whole eggs, the healthy fats of the yolks. And pasture-raised eggs are also high in omega-3. A general rule too is every 4 ounces of chicken, fish, or meat is about 25 grams of protein. So right here, I measured that 4 ounces. I get 25 grams of protein here. And each egg is about 8 grams of protein. So 16, I'm about at 40 grams of protein, ideal amount of protein for a meal. So I also picked an avocado. Avocados, in my opinion, are superfoods. I eat an avocado every single day, loaded with potassium, right? The adequate intake for potassium for everyone is about 4,700 milligrams every single day. Most people don't get anywhere near enough potassium. This avocado has about 800 to 900 milligrams of potassium, plus loaded with fiber, about 17, 18 grams of fiber per avocado. And I also try to eat fermented food every single day. That's why I like to have a pickle. See, pickles, fermented foods feed the good bacteria in your stomach. Just a great, healthy thing to do. And if you look at this meal structure, that's how I like to structure my meals. I think when you're doing an 18-6 intermittent fasting strategy, you want to break your fast with meals that have at least 1 part protein and then 2 parts like fiber type carbohydrates, which in this case I pick like a fruit of avocado, which is really like a vegetable, right? High in monounsaturated fats, and then a pickle. And this is somewhat of a light meal. Depending upon your weight, I think if you're anywhere around like 150 to 170 pounds, this is like an ideal meal. If you're a petite gal, I would just reduce the amount of salmon. Maybe you only have one egg. If you're a big guy or gal, say over 200 pounds, maybe you have 3 hard-boiled eggs. You know, maybe you can add a second or a third vegetable to this. Maybe you can throw I'll have a little like arugula salad on the side or something like this for lunch. Okay, but this is how you want to structure your meals. Whole, natural food diet. If you notice, there's no grains here. There's no sugary grains, there's no rice, there's no pasta, there's no bread. This is pretty much a grain-free meal, low in calories, loaded with nutrition. And here's another option. Similar to the first one, but this particular one we're going to, once again, we have our avocado. This was a meal the night before. We had some Gulf Court wild-caught shrimp from Florida. We have sardines, wild-caught sardines. I mean, I love this stuff. Sardines are one of my favorite foods. Once again, high in omega-3s, right? See, sardines, you have the skin of the sardine. You get the bones for the calcium. Incredible food to eat on a regular basis. So we get a double protein here. We got string beans sauteed with extra virgin olive oil, garlic, a little bit of salt, and once again, a little bit of fermented food, which is a pickle. Incredible meal structure. So we have a couple of vegetables, fermented food, double up on the protein. This is how you want to eat whole, natural foods, right? And if you had to look at, say, the macronutrient ratio of these particular meals, you'd find out that most of the calories are actually coming from fat without necessarily adding fat to the meals. I bet this is at about 50% fat, but healthy fats, maybe 30% protein, 15-20% carbohydrates. And to me, that's the ideal meal structure. Not to spike insulin too much. You're going to get some response because whenever you eat food, if you're eating proteins, you're still going to spike insulin to some degree, but not excessively. I would say a couple of hours after a meal like this, your insulin levels are going to be right down, nice and low. Okay. Now, in this next section, let's go over a couple of different dinner ideas. Now, here are two what I would consider ideal dinners. And if you notice, the portion size is a little bit bigger. You know, I like to, actually, I love to eat dinner with my wife and kids every night. I generally eat like a medium-sized lunch, and I do take in most of my calories for dinner. So here I'm going with a nice big piece of salmon steak. Once again, this is wild-caught salmon. I like the salmon steak because it's a little meatier. And if you're noticing, I lean toward more of a pescatarian type diet, which I think is ideal. I think fish is probably the best source and healthiest source of protein. I do eat red meat, so I think red meat, chicken, it's pork, lamb. I think it's all good options, but I personally just lean towards meat. So here I got this is actually like a pound. So we're talking 16 ounces, 100 grams of protein, tons of healthy omega-3 fats. And then we picked 2 or 3 different vegetables. Ideal meal structure. These are red beets, sauteed in extra virgin olive oil, once again, salt and pepper. Then we have an arugula salad with tomatoes, with fresh tomatoes. Absolutely love this. This is the ideal meal structure. And you're noticing there are no grains once again with this dinner. See, the grains, the pasta, even the potatoes, the rice, the breads, that's what adds calories to your meal. Plus, that's also what spikes insulin. So if you eat in this way, beside the fact that you're fasting for 18 hours every day, which is so incredibly, or intermittently, so incredibly healthy, you're also minimizing the insulin spikes with meals like this. Plus, you're getting in tons of nutrition, vitamins, minerals, nutrients, without overdoing it on the calories. Okay. Now another one of my favorite dinners. And if you're noticing too, I also like to pick 2 different colored vegetables. You very rarely see me go green. Like right here, we have some string beans. If I was eating string beans, I generally wouldn't have broccoli. Like in this case, I went with string beans and portobello mushrooms. But lately, I've just been into portobello mushrooms. Absolutely love them. Loaded with nutrition and health. See, 2 different colors. I would do string beans, saying cauliflower. See here, when we're red beets, right? Orangey red tomatoes and green arugula. Different vitamins, different minerals. Eat a rainbow color of vegetables. And once again, I went with salmon again too. We seasoned it differently. This was like a blackened season. Now we have just a little parsley, oregano, salt, pepper. This is how you have to eat. This is the ideal meal structure when you're following an 18-6 fasting protocol. So you're taking those same concepts. You're keeping the calories low by eating nutrient-dense food, plus you're eating foods that don't spike insulin. And there were so many other benefits to intermittent fasting too. But I just wanted to focus on these two to get my point across. Now, another thing I also want to talk about, if you notice, I didn't mention snacks. I find that if you can limit yourself to just 2 meals a day, you're going to do even better with an 18-6 intermittent fasting strategy. Because just think, you're minimizing those insulin spikes. You're getting 2 insulin spikes when you're only eating 2 meals a day. If you're snacking in between, you're still going to do fine, but you won't do as well as if you eat 2 meals a day. And I love that 18-6 intermittent fasting with 2 meals a day, eating a whole natural food diet. I don't think you can do any better. But once again, too, you also have to think about mixing things up and taking diet breaks. If you're doing an 18-6 every single day, following my advice, eating a whole natural food diet, you're going to be in a calorie restricted state. So I say if you're doing it every day, I wouldn't do this for more than 5 or 6 weeks. Because what happens when you reduce calories for an extended period of time, your metabolism will slow down to some degree. And to minimize the slowdown in your metabolism, it's called metabolic adaptation. To minimize the slowdown in your metabolism, it's good to up your calories now and then. So if I was doing an 18-6 every day, after 4, 5, 6 weeks, I like to take a week off, have a third meal, up my calories a little bit. That's one thing I might do. Or instead of just eating 2 meals a day within my 18-6, I may incorporate 2 more snacks to up my calories, to kind of pop up my metabolism. Do that for a week, then go back to my 18-6 intermittent fasting with 2 meals a day. Or another thing you can do is just to do 18-6 intermittently, just like the word says, intermittent fasting. So don't do it every day. If you did an 18-6, 2 meals a day, whole food natural diet 3 or 4 times a week, you never have to take a diet break. You're going to lose weight, improve your health. It's going to work incredible. So those are 2 different options. Now, if you want to learn more about intermittent fasting, I recently put one of my personal training clients on a 4-week intermittent fasting program, incorporating all the strategies we're talking about here. He did so incredibly well. And it's a longer video than this. Everything is mapped out so well. Check out the video. I think you'll find it really helpful.